It's week one. We're going to do some Patreon videos that are going to look at the turning points for the game. And we've got two plays for you for the week one loss against the Arizona Cardinals. One on offense, one on defense. And we're going to look at them in sequence. We're going to first look at a good play from the Arizona Cardinals, a throw to DeAndre Hopkins, and talk about what happened here on defense and talk about a bit of a defensive breakdown. And then we're going to take a look at a throw from Jimmy Garoppolo that he missed, that he would like back, that could have won the game, but instead had it bounce off of Patrick Peterson's helmet. So let's start with this play here. It's going to be in the fourth quarter. It's going to be the play where DeAndre Hopkins gets down to the 1 yard line, almost scores a touchdown. And the concept that the Cardinals are running is one the Niners have seen before. It's a pretty common play in football. See it every Sunday. It's mesh. If you remember some of the Chip Kelly stuff from years ago that we covered, this is basically Chip Kelly's mesh. And the Niners just do not handle it well.
Yeah, so mesh will kind of start with that just as a little reminder. So basically we're going to get a little shallow cross here. We're going to get a little shallow cross here. We're going to get this guy kind of sitting behind it. So this forms your triangle read, right? So I've got my two shallow crossers with somebody sitting directly behind them. And then I'm going to have my back out on a little wheel route that is going to be an alert for my quarterback. So he's going to take a quick peek over there, see if maybe the linebacker really is going to screw up and not cover him or is going to get lost in traffic somewhere. And if so, I might have a big play that I'm going to drop over the top of the wheel. But otherwise, he's not going to be the primary part of the concept. It's going to be those three receivers kind of over the middle here. And as we learned from Richard Sherman post-game, we have a little bit of a breakdown defensively here because we didn't get some adjustments communicated, which is unfortunate at home in an empty stadium. I think
that's the part that frustrates me the most is you've got defensive communication in the third year of a system, and when you've got veterans along that back end, and you've got no fans, and yet you're miscommunicating on defense. It's literally infuriating. But what that means is you've got a kind of cover for shell. You've got just two underneath defenders, which is a unique coverage back end. Not one that we covered in scheme month, but having two cover defenders in the underneath area, not something you see often in the NFL, something you see a bit more in college, but that's not even what is an issue here. The issue is ultimately that it looks like you've got one half the field playing zone, the other half playing man, and ultimately it results in DeAndre Hopkins running free and getting down to the 1 yard line.
Yeah, so let's watch it. We'll see mesh play out here. Hopkins obviously finding a whole lot of space and getting open. See the play in full, and we'll kind of look at it. And so again, this is one of those plays where it's going to be very difficult to know exactly 100% what or who was the reason for this breakdown and why it happened. But we can certainly give it kind of our best guess based on what we know about coverages and how things kind of play out here. And I think the guy that we want to really look at is Jimmy Ward right here. So kind of the way that they play this. And so this is essentially, if you remember, we in scheme month, we did talk about fire zone coverage, which is a 3 deep, 3 under type coverage. And there's usually a lot of match involved in this. And this is essentially a quarters variation of that, as looks like what they're trying to get into. And so the breakdown and where the miscommunication occurs is what to do with these crossers. So with a lot of match coverage, the thing that they won't match is going to be these shallow underneath routes. And so, for instance, you can see the way K'Waun Williams, who is lined up right here, the way he plays this is he's going to check DeAndre Hopkins. He sees the shallow in breaking route, and he's like, okay, that's the one I'm going to let go. I'm going to now back off here and look for the other one coming my way. Jimmy Ward does not do that, right? So he tracks this shallow crosser as if he were playing man coverage. And so he's not there to pick up Hopkins coming the other way. And so that's the area. Those are the kind of the two defenders that you're looking at there that are playing essentially the same route and have a similar role within the defense. And they're playing them different ways. And that's why you end up with a receiver that's wide open.
And this play was huge because at this point, the Niners are still in the lead. If they're able to hold the Cardinals here, they're maybe able to force a field goal. Field goals are no gimmies, as week one in the NFL clearly showed. But this is a play that ultimately goes gets them down to the 1, gives them the go-ahead score, and now the Niners are playing from behind. And they're playing from behind Jimmy Garoppolo gets the 49ers offense into the red zone and squanders an opportunity on this play right here. Now, this play is going to have it's one of Shanahan's plays that is called Hurricane. And the hurricane concept is going to have a couple different things happening on both sides of the field. And he's actually going to add a little extra sauce to this one too. On the top side, you're going to have two routes, which is going to be basically a follow concept. You're going to have that hurricane route from the X receiver, which is an underneath drag. And then you're going to have a follow route from Mostert right behind him. And then to the bottom of the picture, you're going to have basically two verticals, one from Kittle, which is called the through route, and he's going to adjust it for the coverage. Basically, it's like if you see one safety, you do one thing. If you see two safeties, you do another. And then you've got Kendrick Bourne, who is going to run a curl route typically. That's the way that this route looks typically. And then you've got basically the inside receiver, number 3 there, who's going to run that flat route. That's what that concept looks like normally. This is a little different because ultimately everything looks the same here except for Kendrick Bourne's route. Kendrick Bourne is going to basically pretend like he's going to run the hitch, and it's perfect because it sucks everyone down, and then he gets into the end zone, and Jimmy Garoppolo just flat out misses it.
Yeah, so you can see, I mean, a great route from Bourne. Gets Patrick Peterson over here to really bite. I mean, sells it well. Like you see him break down, lower those hips, right? Really get the arms turning, and Peterson is dropping that foot in the ground, and he's trying to drive on it here. And this is wide open. I mean, this should be 6 points. Like this is everything that you want. Like it's an adjustment that like Shanahan, I like almost guarantee that he's going to drive on that route, right? He made this adjustment. So like likely what it is, right? So you have that curl hurricane concept that they're running, and almost certainly what they did is just like tag Bourne's route and basically said like, we're going to run this concept, but you're going to do this adjustment to the route, and you're going to actually give a little stutter go, and we're going to expect that Peterson's going to drive on this, right? That he's going to be aggressive, because we know, I mean, what have we talked about with the 49ers offense so often? They don't really throw the deep ball very often, right? So much of it is on the intermediate stuff, the shorter game. And so as like a defender, you know that going in. And so you're going to be a little bit predisposed to, I think, drive on some of those intermediate routes. And they get him here, and he's wide open, and this should really be, I think the game ender. And this is just something that was an issue for Garoppolo throughout this game, and it was an issue that a concern that I had with him coming into the season, which is his accuracy just hasn't quite been there, and it was off in this game, and this is, I think, a great example of that.
Now, where should this throw be, David? Because I know that Shanahan in postgame said that, he would have loved for Bourne to have jumped up and caused Peterson to run into him with, Peterson's back to the ball. That's probably a PI. And Shanahan is right. But, I think it's a little, he's probably doing a little bit of quarterback protecting, which I understand. But
sure.
Like a quarterback should make this throw. This is a quarterback that I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the second highest paid quarterback this year in terms of like dollars that he's going to earn this year based on cap dollars. He should be able to make this throw. Where should this throw be? Should it lead Bourne more? Should it be more to one side or the other? Where should you expect this throw to be?
The ball should be thrown here, right? This back corner of the end zone. Like that's really where we're looking at. So if you go back a little bit here and we look at kind of the timing of the throw, I think timing is good. So, he's stepping up in the pocket here, and right as they're even. So you can see that like Bourne is just kind of getting level with Peterson here. That's when Garoppolo is starting his throwing motion back here. So I think from a timing perspective, he's good. He's thrown it on time, and that's going to give him the advantage of having all of that space back here to work with. And you just want to see, he just leaves it short. And so I think he just gets a little bit worried, leaves it short. And if he puts this, at the top of the end here on the little NFC logo, this is 6, right? Bourne's able to keep running. So yeah, I think the point that you make about, or that the Shanahan tried to make about, yeah, you would like to see Bourne, rather than kind of like settle like he does here and kind of like just shuffle backwards and hope that it like clears Peterson so that he can kind of bucket catch it there. You would like to see him here kind of like recognize, okay, I've got an underthrown pass. Let me gather and go up and try to high point this. And at that point, Peterson's absolutely going to run through him. if you don't get an opportunity to make the catch over the top of Peterson, you're going to get that PI penalty, and you're looking at 1st and goal from the 1. But that's like, so even like that's not a factor if Garoppolo puts the ball where it's supposed to be, which is over the top. Lead him towards, I mean, you're wanting to work it towards his back pylon, right? So when you look at kind of where he's at, yeah, somewhere right in this area is going to like be the sweet spot where he can adjust to it over his shoulder and be able to make that catch.
You don't need to overcomplicate the wide receiver's actions when you execute the play well. When you execute the throw well is ultimately what it comes down to. So those are 2 plays that we felt were 2 of the more critical moments in the game, the turning points, if you will, both on offense and defense. And so this wraps up the first Patreon exclusive video that we're going to talk about in week 1. We're still going to have our podcast, lots of stuff to talk about on the podcast, so make sure you tune in there. But we'll be back next week with another set of turning points. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, go Niners.